Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State yesterday announced the white paper on the report of the State Judicial Panel on Police Brutality and the Lekki tollgate shooting of last year was ready. The white paper, which was released last night, showed that of the 32 recommendations made by the Judicial Panel, 11 were accepted in totality, 6 were accepted with modifications, 1 was rejected, and 14 fell outside the powers of Lagos State Government. The 14 outside the purview of the state government will be forwarded to the federal government for consideration. The white paper also rejected the findings of the Judicial Panel's report on the Lekki incident, which concluded that 9 unarmed protesters were killed during the shooting at the toll gate. Arise correspondent Tokunbo Oyetunji has more.
Some of the contents, like you already put right, we'll start from the reactions of the Lagos State government to the recommendations by the panel. You put it right, 32 recommendations by that panel, which made the report public on that's submitting it to the government, the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, on the 15th of November 2021, just 2 weeks ago. 11 of those recommendations were fully accepted by the Lagos State government, 1 rejected, and 6 accepted with modifications. 14 other recommendations fall outside the powers of Lagos State government and will be forwarded to the federal government for consideration. Let's quickly talk about the recommendation, the particular one that the state government said is not acceptable to it, which is that the government should do all its no, that's not, excuse me, this is the recommendation. It's recommendation number 24, which says a monument memorializing the lives lost and those injured at the Lekki toll gates with the names inscribed on the monument should be put up. The government says this recommendation is not acceptable to Lagos State government for the following reasons. Let me just quickly read a few lines from the reaction of the state government. The finding of the JPI at page 288, paragraph M, is that the evidence of the pathologist, Professor Obafua, that only 3 of the bodies that he conducted post-mortem examination on were from Lekki, and only 1 had gunshot injury, and this was not debunked. We deem it credible as the contrary was not presented before the panel. The panel's finding of 9 deaths is therefore irreconcilable with the evidence of Professor Obafua that only 1 person died of gunshot wounds at 7:43 p.m. at the Lekki toll gates on 21st of October 2021. So that makes you see that the Lagos State government is still standing on what it earlier put out to the public, that only 1 person died from the incident of the Lekki toll gate on that night, as against the recommendations, as against what the panel found out to say about 9 people lost their lives. And if you go further down the reaction of the Lagos State government, it says, having held that there was no evidence before it to the contrary of what Professor Obafua said, the question is, where did the JPI, that's the Judicial Panel of Investigation, then get its finding of 9 deaths from? So that is the question that the Lagos State government is still raising, as reflected in this white paper that has just been released a few hours ago by the state government. So it goes on and on, meaning that the state government has not fully agreed to some of these recommendations put forward by the Judicial Panel of Investigation. That of course, you know that some of those recommendations have thrown up a whole lot of reactions from different parties and individuals, and many Nigerians, even outside Nigeria. So that's where we are now. The recommendations that the state government agreed to, which are 11 of them that they fully agree with, they will be taking more steps on. The one that they have rejected so far, we'll see where we'll go from there. And 6 others that they've accepted with modifications, we'll see what happens. And 14 others that they said they'll be forwarding to the federal government for appropriate considerations and action. So that's where we are for now, Charles. We'll see what is going to happen from there.
Well, joining us now to discuss the reports of the judicial panel, which had already been discredited by the federal and Lagos state governments before the release of the white paper, is Moyosore Onigbanjo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria and the Lagos State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, who will also be telling us what Governor Sanwo-Olu sought to achieve yesterday when he invited some NSAS protesters to join him in a, in quotes, historic march. Welcome to the show, Mr. Onigbanjo, and good morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, thank you for joining us. Well, your panel, the white paper panel on the investigations into police brutality and the killings at the Lekki toll gate, concluded, in my view, that that report, the original report by the panel, was full of inconsistencies and contradictions. And to that extent, you know, some of the recommendations are unacceptable. And the key one was the white paper saying that there was no massacre in context as submitted by that particular panel, and that it is not true that 9 persons died. Do you want to take us through some of those inconsistencies and contradictions before we begin to look at the recommendations?
So thank you very much. The position of Lagos State government is based entirely on the report submitted by the panel itself. We went through the report, and what we saw, particularly in reference to what you say, is that in one instance, at I think page 288, paragraph M of the report, the judicial panel said that they found the evidence of Professor Obafunwa, the pathologist, who conducted autopsies on all the bodies picked up all over Lagos during the protest, not just at Lekki toll gate, but statewide, that they found his evidence credible and that there was no evidence to the contrary. Now, what did Professor Obafunwa say? Professor Obafunwa said that of all the bodies he conducted autopsies on, 3 came from Lekki. Out of the 3, only 1 had gunshot injury. And the panel then said, we believe you, we accept your evidence, because there is nothing to the contrary. So in law, if you put that on the imaginary scale, it means what Professor Obafunwa said outweighs every other evidence before the panel. It even goes beyond that. They said there was nothing to the contrary. Then the panel then goes on to say there were 9 deaths. If you look at that page where they listed out actually 11 deceased persons from Lekki toll gate, they didn't explain, there was no explanation as to how they arrived at that conclusion, how they came about the names, who shot them when they were shot. So that's a contradiction, because what you say you believe Professor Obafunwa to have said is different from the conclusion you are reaching. And there were so many others. Take, for example, again, they said 9 people died, and they awarded compensation to only 1. Why, if you believe 9 people died, why are you not awarding compensation to the other 8 people? They also said one Nathaniel Solomon, I think is listed there. They said he died. He was deceased at Lekki toll gate. It also turns out that Nathaniel Solomon was a witness before them who had a petition in respect of his late brother. So look, an allegation that somebody was murdered is not one to be made lightly. In fact, in criminal law jurisprudence, you must prove it beyond reasonable doubt. But where you have these inconsistencies, is Nathaniel Solomon dead or alive? Did one person die at Lekki, or did 9 people die? those contradictions and many more made that particular finding unreliable. Because, I mean, for a finding that somebody died at a scene to be acceptable, there must be no doubt. What the panel did created doubts. It created gaps in their story of 9 deaths. And once there are doubts, the doubts are usually resolved in favor of the person you are accusing to have murdered or killed those people. So it was because of that particular finding was rejected. We have listed out in the white paper some of the contradictions. We're also going to release the 2 reports of the panel for the public to judge by themselves. So it's not just going to be a case of Lagos State government analyzing this in itself and coming to its conclusions. We're going to make them available to everybody, read it, and see how you can resolve the conflict between saying, oh, I agree with the pathologist that one person died and was picked up on the 21st of October 2020, and then going on to then say somewhere else that 9 persons died, and then not even offering any explanation as to how did these people die? How did these 9 people die? Who killed them? Who shot them? When were they killed?
Right.
Nothing.
Because this is at the crux of the matter, I need to ask you, you've made it very clear, but I must ask specifically for avoidance of any doubt. It is the position of the Lagos State government that there was no massacre at the Lekki toll gate. That is the position of the Lagos State government.
So the position of the Lagos State government is based on the findings of the panel itself. So it's not that Lagos State government just conjured this from the air. We looked at the report. That is what the panel itself said, that one person died at Lekki toll gate. Then it then went on to say 9 people died. So it's not Lagos State government that is saying it. It's what the panel said from after reviewing the evidence of Professor Bafunwa. They said it, we didn't say it. It's there. If you want me to read it out for you, I'll read it out. So to say that Lagos State government is saying that no, it's what the panel said, that one person died of gunshot wound injury at Lekki toll gate. This is it. The evidence of I'm reading from page 288. The evidence of the pathologist, Professor Obafunwa, that only 3 of the bodies that they conducted post-mortem examination on were from Lekki, and only 1 had gunshot injury, and this was not debunked. We deem it credible as the contrary was not presented before the panel. That's their own conclusion.
Okay, so that's their own conclusion, but I'd like to ask you, is it that, what are we saying here? Is it that nothing happened in Lekki? Because, yes, you are talking about the evidence of, Professor Bafunwa here.
Yeah.
But also, I can raise the case of, and please, can we just all agree on something? That the leaked report was actually the correct report, because from the recommendations on the white paper, I saw that it was most of the recommendations on the leaked report that was reacted to. So can we also talk about the case of the police that was said there, that the panel used the arms register, that the panel used the fact that police officers in that particular police division will normally collect 15 to 20 rounds of bullets. But on the night of the 20th, some collected 60 rounds of bullets, and some even collected 75 rounds of bullets, as stated in the report. So, what happened that night?
So look, it's not that we're living in denial. No, not at all. The report itself, which I urge you all to find time to read, it's about, come to about maybe 550 pages, says, 1, the military, the army was at Lekki toll gate. 2, they fired gunshots. But the forensic expert called by the panel itself said it couldn't determine that live rounds were fired. Although General Taiwo said the army went there with blanks and with live bullets. So that's one thing. Regarding your question about police taking live
more rounds, specifically
rounds
on the night of the 20th.
More rounds. So if you read the same report, the movement register of the police showed that one policeman was assigned to Lekki. It's all there. And so even if they took more rounds, you still have to go on to show that these rounds were actually used to kill A, B, C, D. So it's not just to say, oh, they took more rounds, because then there's a gap. You have to tell us what they did with the rounds.
So what happened on that night? Because you see, the panel of inquiry was set up to know what happened on that night of the 20th in Lekki, at the Lekki toll gate.
Yes.
But at the end of this panel of inquiry, it's obvious by arguments and counter-arguments that we've not been able to see the light of what happened on that night.
Well,
so what really happened? Is it that nobody died? Is it that nothing happened? Because what really happened on that night?
So
for the sake of peace, and healing and reconciliation.
Yeah. So that was the panel's duty. The state government set up the panel to find out precisely that. What they found out is contained in the report they've issued. We're going by that report, and I've told you what they said. The army were there, no dispute. They fired shots in the air, whether blanks or live. The panel, I believe the panel said they fired blanks and live bullets. But if you want to accuse somebody to have killed that he shot or killed somebody, you then have to go on to show the details. So you can't leave anything to speculation. Like what you're saying is speculation, that so because they took 70 rounds, because they took 50% more rounds.
No, it's the report that said that, not me.
Yes, it's still speculation.
Okay, the report is speculating, not me. Yeah.
It's still speculation if you cannot show how 9 people died. You must be able to show. You must be able to tell the world what happened at Lekki on that day. Now, so if your findings, unfortunately, I would call it, leaves all these gaps, all these doubts, then we can't rely on it.
Well, on that note, Mr. Onigbanjo, we'll take a short break, and then when we return, there will be more issues to be raised with regard to the white paper and the report itself. We'll be right back. Stay with us.